Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa bihi nasta'in. The floor is open. If anybody has any questions, you can just raise your hand. Anybody has any questions? The floor is open. Yes, brother. Now.
Recently we see on the TV Muslim brothers committing suicide. Is that really martyrdom? Your opinion?
Okay, this is a question that is now on the level of ifta, of the muftis. And there's two major opinions about this at this point in time. The asl, the basis for Muslims is that we don't commit suicide, we don't kill ourselves. That is the basis. And it is reported that there was a person who was in a battle and he died. And the Prophet ﷺ said, he's in the fire. And so nobody knew why he said that. But then when they described how he died, he had a spear in him and he killed himself. Right? So that is suicide, or is intihar. So some of the scholars are taking that position, that there's no possible way. Other scholars in Philistine and other places have taken the position that in this case it's not suicide, because the person doesn't intend to kill themselves, and it's like jumping in battle. Like some people would jump into battle and they would fight, and then they knew they were going to die, but their intention is not to kill themselves. So as long as they're not killing non-combatants, you're not supposed to kill people who are not fighting. But in the case of Palestine, it has become darura. It has become necessity. وَالضُّرُورَاتُ تُبِيحُ الْمَحْظُورَاتِ. And necessity makes permissible what is not normally permissible. So because of this, the scholars there have said that the intention is totally different, and this is a special situation, and they have permitted this thing. But that is the job of, I'm not a mufti, that's the job of the mufti, and they have made this decision there, and they've decided that it is permissible. Allahu A'lam. Allah knows best. We only ask Allah to accept, a person, whatever a person's intention is. May Allah accept their intentions, man. May Allah accept their intentions. Any other questions? Yes, brother.
How do you think you'll recognize your leader?
Excuse me?
How do you think you'll recognize your leader?
Good question. The leader, in what sense do you mean the leader? Okay, there's leadership on different levels. You're talking about the Khalifa of the Muslim world? Okay, well... Okay, there are signs, there are hadith that point to the fact that there would be a person who would become, his name is the Mahdi. He's called the Mahdi. And his name is Muhammad, his father's name is Abdullah, and his mother's name is Amina, and his hairline is high, his forehead, and his nose is angular, and he's from the family of the Prophet ﷺ. And he will appear in between the Yemeni corner and the black stone. When the earth is filled with injustice, he will appear. وَيُصْلِحُهُ اللَّهُ فِي لَيْلَةٍ. In one hadith it said Allah would bring him together in one night. So the signs are general signs, and some people have claimed to be the Mahdi, but they weren't the Mahdi. There were people, one of the Khalifas in the Abbasid times called himself Al-Mahdi. In the Sudan, Muhammad Ahmed, who fought against the British, he also claimed to be the Mahdi, but he died. He was going to Mecca and everything, and he got typhoid fever and he dropped dead. So he's not the Mahdi. In 1979, there was somebody who took over the Haram, a group of Shabab youth. They took over the Haram, and they said their leader was the Mahdi, but he wasn't. So Allah knows best, but this person will come. One of the signs is that an army would come from the north and to attack him. And as it goes through Hijaz, right, coming from north in, the earth would swallow it up. So in 1979, when this person, whose name was Muhammad Abdullah, by the way, and he was from the Ashraf, and he was in there, and the strategic forces were coming from Tabuk, that's in the north. So everybody was waiting to see if they were swallowed up, that's him. But they weren't. And they made a terrible mistake. And so the problem is we cannot fill in the signs ourselves. We have to have patience to wait for this person to come. But Allah will give him authority. And it will be clear in terms of his leadership. We always got to look for his piety, his practice of Islam, and then these signs. There's a number of hadiths where you can see the details about him. Okay? But inshallah he will lead an army then from Mecca north through Medina, and then up into Philistine area and Blad al-Sham, up into there. So this is how the signs basically lead into it. Allahu Alam. Many people have claimed Mahdi. We used to have one every 2 months in New York City. Everybody claimed it, man. Mujaddids and Mahdis and all kinds of people, man. He's there. But no. Any other questions anybody has? Yes, brother.
We love you in Allah.
Allah yubarak fik.
It's a comment just for accuracy purposes. Actually, the hadith that you mentioned about the Sahabi who Prophet ﷺ has confirmed 3 times that he's going to Jannah. The Sahabi who was involved was Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. He was not Amr ibn al-As.
Okay, shukran. Jazakallah. Jazakallah khair.
The other thing is that on Mu'tasim, when that lady asked for his help and he threatened that the enemy, actually they did not release the woman. He had to go and fight for her, and he opened Amuriya, which is a town in the Anatolia.
Okay.
He opened it, he conquered the Amuriya for that lady. Actually there was a big fight in Amuriya. And the other thing is that there is a hadith sahih from Prophet ﷺ about the children and the non-combatants. Actually, Sahaba has asked Prophet ﷺ, they said, in our battles, we go to the battle, and under our forces and with our weapons, there will be sometimes women and children of the people that we are attacking die. What is our position in this? He said in an open way, he said, أطفال المشركين منهم. That is in battle time. When there is kids and women, they are considered as part of the mushrikeen. The same thing, because in the battle time, you cannot make this, and Prophet ﷺ knew this very well, and anybody who has fought a battle knows that very well. In the battle time, you cannot just stop from shooting because there is a kid or something, because actually the mushriks are shooting you all. So you fight as they fight. And that's the way that you can defend your people, your kids and your children, if you done as they do. But if you don't do like they do, you will lose the battle totally. And that's why Prophet ﷺ said in an open way, explicit way, that the children of the mushriks are part of them in the battle.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair. What I'm saying though is that the intention is not to kill them. The intention should not be to kill them. If it happens, it happens. But there are different, sayings when he sent out the Sahaba to battle, that the intention is not to kill them, but if it happens, it does happen. Any other verbal questions or comments anybody has?
Yes.
Go ahead. Yes, brother. Alaikum salam.
As you know, brother, we get trouble with the Jews everywhere. What advice for us, how we deal with the Jews in this community? And because there's some brother, they have some idea, says they can become Muslim.
Yeah.
And Allah says, what we can say for some brother, say the Jews is our brother, we can talk to them, blah, blah, blah. How we can advise them or advise us?
Well, in terms of a person accepting Islam, whoever accepts Islam, we have to accept the fact that the person is Muslim. And you can't look inside of his heart and judge whether the person is or is not. And some of the Yahud in the time of the Prophet ﷺ accepted Islam. Mukhayriq, one of the Yahud, Mukhayriq, accepted Islam and he was shaheed in one of the battles. So if a person accepts Islam, we have to accept the fact that they have done that and pray that Allah would guide him to Islam, whoever it is. In terms of our dealing generally with the people of the book, depending upon where you are, this is a question that goes heavily into, it's a political question. But in terms of our dealing, we can deal directly with the people of the book, and there's a difference between somebody who is from the Beni Israel or from the Jews and a Zionist. You have to separate sometimes Zionism from the religion itself. Sometimes it's difficult to do that, today especially, because of how widespread the power that it has over their minds. However, technically speaking, there is a difference. Because in Zionism, the people who developed Zionism are not actually religious people at all. Okay, so theoretically, we still do separate Zionism from the people of the book. So each person has to be dealt with on their own merit. At the same time, we're not naive and foolish, right? We still have to tie our camels in a sense. But in order to do dawah, you have to be able to go out and talk to people, man. We have to face the public. We can't hide inside of our corners anymore. We have to come out in the open. And if there are some people out in the public, who we don't like, or who are different than us, still it should not stop us from spreading the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then openly, coming out with our Islam. Because there's so much propaganda against Islam today that it's important for us to express ourselves publicly and express ourselves openly in front of people without any fear or worry about who we're dealing with. Allahu Akbar. Any other questions anybody has? Yes, brother.
You just give us a brief of the American Muslims. How do they organize themselves and the likelihood of influencing the Americans?
What is happening in America is that because when the slaves were taken from West Africa, about 30%, at least 30% of the slaves were Muslims. And so within the heritage of African Americans is a strong connection with Islam. And so there are large amounts of African Americans who are accepting Islam now. And also because the freedom and the equality that Islam gives, Allah has willed that African Americans would enter into large groups. But the new policy being used in America is not just divide and conquer, it's confuse and conquer. So a number of organizations in the name of Islam were raised up and financed in America, and they spread ideologies un-Islamic in the name of Islam. The biggest one was the Nation of Islam, whose leader was Elijah Muhammad. And he said that, it was apartheid system in America. Just like in all of the colonies. And the darker you were, you're on the bottom. The lighter you are, you're on the top. So Elijah Muhammad is a black nationalist leader, a tribal leader. He turned it around. And he met a man by the name of W. Fard Muhammad. Nobody knows exactly where he came from. Some say he came from Lebanon. Some say he came from Turkey. Some say actually the FBI released their reports. After 50 years, they released their reports. And the FBI said that he was half Polynesian, Maori, the Maori people in New Zealand, that his father was Maori and his mother was European. And he was being used by the Japanese in order to bring African Americans against the U.S. government in the 1930s. It was before World War II. So he taught that, I think he was Ismaili or something like that, it sounded like. But he taught numbers and things like Ismailis. And he taught that Allah was a man, well, iyadu billah, and so there's a spaceship flying around. And every 144,000 years, one of the scientists becomes Allah. This is what he taught. Now, nobody knew Islam in America, right? They didn't know Islam. And so, but he also taught you should be clean, you should stand up for the truth, right? And he said that black people are the children of God, and that white people are devils, created by an evil scientist named Yaqub. Okay? Now, of course, these things have nothing to do with Islam. But there was so much racism in America that the people believed him. And he also taught self-respect, independence, and so they joined this organization. And until a man by the name of Malcolm X, or Malcolm Little, joined the group, and he became the greatest speaker for Elijah Muhammad. But he was a very sincere person. And he found out that Elijah was a liar, a kadhab. And so Elijah kicked him out the organization. Malcolm went to Mecca. And there, he saw real Islam. He saw white, yellow, brown, black, all together. And he said, Elijah is a liar. And he returned to America and he was teaching real Islam. And he was assassinated by the combined forces of Elijah Muhammad and the government in 1965. In 75, Elijah died. And so his son, Warith ad-Din, took over the movement. And he started to come towards Islam. Now, their practices, their 5 pillars of Islam. This is how the enemies of Islam did in America. They had 5 pillars. The Shahada is wrong. They said Allah is a man and Elijah is the last prophet. Wa'iyadhu billah. Salat, they used to make sitting down on a chair. Fasting, they used to fast in December, not in Ramadan. Khalaf al-Yahud wa Nasara. Be different than the Jews and the Christians, so they had to fast in December. They used to make Hajj to Chicago, not to Mecca, right? And so then Warith ad-Din took over, and Malcolm X, his best student was a man named by Louis Farrakhan, who is a nightclub entertainer. He's a singer, right? And Malcolm taught him how to speak. And he copied everything about Malcolm. He lived underneath him and became his student. And so he took over the leader. He speaks out. He's strong against civil rights, injustice. He speaks out. But when it comes to Islam, he's confused. And this is the problem, because at some times, if he comes amongst Muslims, he seems like a Muslim. If he goes amongst his group, he changes back to Elijah Muhammad's teachings. So this is the problem. And the only thing what is being said today, there is a magazine, a paper called The Final Call. That's their paper. And on the back of The Final Call, it says, what we believe. Now one of the points, I think it's point number 1, it says, we believe that Allah appeared in the person of W.D. Fard Muhammad, the Mahdi of the Muslims and the Messiah of the Christians. Okay? If he changes that, then that means they have really changed. But if he doesn't change the paper, and he doesn't change their belief in Elijah Muhammad, then they haven't changed. He came here to Australia and to different places, and he speaks openly. He stands up for the rights of African people, Aboriginal people. He does do that. We have to give him that credit. He speaks. But we know that he could be used, he's being used to give the wrong impression of Islam. That's the problem. The majority of African Americans are Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah. It's the majority. About 70%. But the one that comes in the newspaper is the Nation of Islam. But the majority is Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah. So alhamdulillah, Islam is now spreading, and more people are, even just one boxer, he just won the world championship or something, Hassan Rahman. Okay, he's a Muslim. His father is an imam. He's he's Muslim. Okay, not that we don't believe necessarily in the boxing the way they do it, right? But unfortunately, Muslims, they need a hero, right? So when he won the championship and he said, why did you win? He said, it's the power of dua. He said, because of Allah, publicly. Okay, so that has had an influence there, and we hope that Allah would guide him and guide Minister Farrakhan and these people, to the truth. But inshallah, they can't stop the word of Allah now. It's spreading all over the place. It has entered into the Indian reservations. Also the Hispanics, the Spanish-speaking Hispanic people, they're also coming into Islam now. Also Euro-Americans are coming into Islam. There's a number of Euro-Americans now who are good scholars of Islam, and who are in America and spreading the teachings within Islam. So inshallah, there's a strong future ahead for us in America. Yes, brother.
What's the situation in Latin America regarding Islam?
In Latin America. Okay, in Latin America, you mean like South America, right?
I mean,
Central South America. Yeah. Okay, I was in Brazil about 4 years ago, in Sao Paulo. And in Brazil, there are more Lebanese in Brazil than in Lebanon. There are more Syrians in Brazil than in Syria. There's a lot of Arabic-speaking people, man. All Venezuela, Argentina, all over the area. But unfortunately, the majority are not necessarily practicing, but they're there. There are masajid that are there. So there is potential for Islam to spread. In Brazil, there is a section called Bahia in Salvador. In the Salvador region, the Bahia, in 1835, there was a slave revolt. And the slaves were from West Africa. They were Hausa and Yoruba. And so the slaves revolted. And they were so powerful that the Portuguese sent them back to West Africa, or some of them. Just let them go back. And so the descendants, the children of these revolutionaries are now coming into Islam in large numbers in Salvador. So in Guyana, in British Guyana, in Suriname, Dutch Guyana, there's a lot of Muslims. There's a revival of Islam. There's a lot of Muslims there. In Venezuela, Caracas, there's 100,000 Arabs in Caracas. Big masjids, there's communities, everything is there. You know, so more dawah efforts need to be made to take it to the people. This is really the problem in many countries. We haven't given the dawah properly to the masses of the people. This is really what we face everywhere now. How to give the dawah to the people. It's critical. Allahu Alam. Any other questions anybody has? Yes, brother.
You mentioned leading to globalization. You have the internet and other resources. Do we have trustable resource just to argue by the name of Islam to say don't read this magazine or don't trust that book?
Do we have resources?
We have that resource
on the internet?
Yes. No, well, it's internet, whatever you
Well, there are different websites on the internet where there are Muslims who are responding to the attacks against Islam.
Yeah, but if I'm not wrong, it's over 30% of website area which is by the name of Islam, but actually when you read under music, it's actually sponsored by Christians.
Yeah, there are some dangerous sites. And maybe the groups like ISNA and people who are on the site would know. I got the list once myself. There's a whole list of sites where the people are Christian missionaries and they say like true Islam and stuff like that. So you go into the website, you think it's Islam, but it's not. They even have a gay Muslim site. They have this thing there, you know. And we have this problem in Canada too. They call themselves min alaq. They're always talking about this blood clots and alaq and stuff. So they formed a group and they came to us in Toronto and they said they want to have a masjid, their own masjid. Because what happened in Toronto, I don't know if it happens here, but the gays are all in one section. They have a place where they pick each other up. So there was racism, so all the brown gays were all together. Right. And so then the Muslim ones, they found themselves together and they went to a community center and the government gave them a grant. And they said, you're a minority in a minority. And so they came and they called me and they said that we want to have our own center and we call ourselves Min Alaq, which is Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, Islamic Support Group. That's what they call themselves. So they said, what is the position of Islam on homosexuality? They asked me this. It's a newspaper, right? So I said, put my name in the paper. The position is death. And we cannot change Islam. But then they said to me, and this is a question you got to consider. They said, what happens if a homosexual comes to the masjid? What are you going to do? So we said, Inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'an. Allah forgives all sins. If he's serious, and a person came to me, and he came in the office and he said he was homosexual and he cried. And I said, what happened to you, man? And he said, my father abused me. He's a Muslim. So we felt sorry for the boy. I said, brother, you know you're sick? And he said, I'm sick. So he sent him to a Muslim psychiatrist so he can work through his problem and then bring him back into the masjid. So anything can come now these days. Anything's going to come at us. But we cannot allow, in the name of Islam, gay masjid to come. We cannot allow this, man. And they're trying to do this. Last summer they had what they call Gay Pride Parade. Do they have that in Sydney here? Because Sydney's a target city, right? In Perth. Toronto they had 750,000 homosexuals. Right? And they said, we're queer and we're here. And we're not going away. That's what they said, man. And they're marching in the parade. And the mayor of the city came out and marched with them, man. Even the time of Lut alayhi salam, you probably hear nothing like this, man. And then the mayor marched with them. And then they had a float for each religion. And they had some Muslim float called As-Salam. And Muslims were out there, man. And in Toronto Board of Education now, they are teaching homosexuality in all the subjects. They said they have a new rule where the teacher must talk about homosexuality in every subject. Even in math class. How can you talk about math? John and Jim equals Joan? I don't know, man. I mean, how can you talk about it in math, man? X, Y, and X and X, I don't know, man. So, you know, but so the Muslims are in a state of like frenzy now. They're in frenzy, man. Because of the liberal nature of the government, right? It's so liberal. It goes with Zionism. And really it seems like, Allahu Alam, when Dajjal has his army, right, who's going to be mostly Yahud, there'll probably be homosexuals with him too. Wallahu Alam. Any other questions anybody has? I'm going to take the brother here.
I was just going to make a point about how that group approached you, the gay group. I was going to say that nowadays I think you need like 2,000 followers and it's an actual real religion. If they believe in the same thing you do, it becomes a legal religion. So there's actually, after the movie Star Wars, a religion in LA now starting called Jedi Knights, where they believe in the...
And that's the reason why in San Francisco they also have Satanism. They're followers of Shaitan. A'udhu billah. Anton Levy. From that time in '64 he started it, and now it's officially recognized in the American Army. If you're a Satanist, you sign the thing, and if you die, they bring a priest of the Church of Satan. Wal-iyadhu billah. So it's reached that stage and that level in terms of the situation. And we ask Allah to protect us from this, and we ask Allah to unite our hearts and give us the strength to take this message out to every house, inshallah, in this country. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.